So I finally got to see the movie of the year from last year, Mad Max Fury Road. I waited, obviously, to. I didn't watch it last year because, as much as I love George Miller, he is not a woman. And I waited, even though I have the Blu-ray at home, I waited till it was going to show up on big screens again because it's most likely going to be nominated for an Oscar, and they're doing a big awards push. So I, in my wisdom, got to see it, because I was waiting, I got to see it with a Q&A with George Miller afterwards, and he was great and had a lot to say, and it was fabulous. But also seeing it at the ArcLight on the big screen, the crowd, mostly of people who loved it at the end. The Q&A moderator, Pete Hammond, asked people to raise their hand if they were seeing it for the first time, and it was like me and like 3 other people, and then the whole rest of the audience was people who were seeing it for who knows how many times. Some background in my Mad Max history. I used to watch these movies a lot with my mother. My mom is a big fan of action films, and she was a big fan of this film. In fact, when she saw it, she was like, Mariah, I think you should like make an exception and see this movie. And I was like, Mom, no. So that made it really difficult, even more difficult, to not see it last year, because even my mom was like, just do it. And I'm like, no. And then she told me that there was something about it that I was going to love, and that she particularly loved, but she didn't tell me what it was. And the internet managed to not spoil it for me. And so thank you, internet. 9 months and or 7 months or whatever. And I didn't know about the amazing warrior women at the end of the film. I'm going to spoil it because I'm going to assume everyone who wants to see this movie has already seen this movie. Amazing warrior women at the end of the movie. Like, Furiosa is obviously a icon of the warrior woman, but there's a whole bunch of them because that's where she comes from. And I'm just like, that was fucking amazing. So the plot's very basic. It's structured as a film in a really great 3-act with a prelude sort of structure. Prelude, Mad Max gets sucked into this world. First act, Furiosa and the wives escape, and they're chased, and Mad Max is, for reasons, in on this. And second act, Mad Max is with the wives and Furiosa as they keep escaping and they get away. And third act, they go back to reclaim the place for goodness rather than horrible, awful decadence and evil sadism. So, and then, it was really well timed out. I was like watching it and going, yes, this is so well structured. And the characters are so rich. And the story world is so rich. And one of the things George Miller said in his Q&A was that they have backgrounds for every character, even the minor characters, and all of the cars, which is just fucking great. Which means there's so many worlds. Like, they probably have a huge story Bible that they can, make billions of films about within this universe. And I would see them. So the things that I particularly liked about this film were these, basically the underlying themes. Now, I mean, the practical effects were fucking badass. The score was fucking badass. The cinematography was divine. But what really, on top, the cherry on top for all of this was these amazing themes. Like, the wives are talking about, who destroyed the world, basically turning it on men. And what I got from it is that basically, if we allow this hypermasculinity, the dangerous kind of hypermasculinity, to overwhelm us and not have a balance, that's what we get. We get this fucking barren wasteland. And it's, the importance of treating women as their own individual beings rather than what they are organically, because you have women who are being used for their milk, and then you have women who are being used as incubators, basically, and that's what, that's a very extreme way of showing how we already treat women. And the thing about violence towards women and is it's a sliding scale. In America, we have abortion rights and birth control rights and rampant rape culture. And then you go to other parts of the world, and the violations and violence and lack of respect for women is even more intense and more in your face. And sort of this film is an allegory of all of that in one sweeping like scope. One thing I'm sure that was written about a lot was how Miller had Eve Ensler, who wrote the vagina monologues, come and talk with the actors about violence towards women, and how, since that was sort of the allegory that this is in there, like how it affects women and how they would behave and how it affects those around them. But it also was about this thing that I've been talking about a lot since I saw Maleficent 2 years ago, about the importance of sororal love and women as groups and the strength that women can get from each other. And that was definitely very strong in this film, and I really appreciated that. And I think the more we celebrate women, like Mustang is another film that came out last year, that really celebrates how much strength women can get from each other. I know, like, cinema's sort of hit and miss when in terms of representing women in a group, because sometimes you'll have like catfighting and lots of bitchiness, but the reality is that most women support each other, and we're designed to support each other. And the history of women is in civilization, especially prior to industrial revolution, is women being each other's support group in the harsh reality of living within a patriarchy. So I love to see that supported. The line "We Are Not Things" is just an amazing anthem. There was a couple other things that I just thought were so good. The woman with the seeds, and her hope is all in this purse with the seeds. And when she first was opening the purse, I thought there was going to be like, trinkets or something in it, and it was like she's literally Mother Earth, and she's talking to a woman who has given up and who would rather not birth someone into this world. And then here is everything. Here's the bounty of the world in this one, purse, and these women have saved it, and in hoping that they can bring it all back. And it was just so beautiful. So it's this great action film, right? But then it has all these just beautiful human moments. It just made me cry. So in terms of like the Best Picture race, and it's the most awarded film of the year so far. It's the highest rated film of the year so far in terms of critic reviews. And as someone who has seen somewhere in the roughly 450 or 470 films that have been nominated for Best Picture, I've seen a lot of the kind of films that end up nominated. And as someone who studied Academy history, I find it strange that at the very early part of the Academy, the film that won was Wings. And part of that, Wings and then Sunrise, because of they had the split categories. But both those films are films that, and the whole reason this was invented was to laud films that were the best achievement in cinematically. And for me, cinematically means something that can only exist in cinema, something that is truly motion and story combined, and visuals, and something that you just, if cinema didn't exist, you wouldn't have this. And I feel like for a long time, the Academy has been awarding films that could easily be stage plays, or that could be novels and you imagine it in your head. But how would you write a film like this? How would you write Wings? How would you write, I don't know, so many films that don't win, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, like the visuals are so important. And I wish that somehow we would get back to a place where we laud cinematic experiences, because when you have all of the great technique and the great story, and you've created a film that is something that can only be a film, I think that's important. And that's why this art exists, and that's why we have awards. Although, we don't they never get it right. So I guess you don't really need to think about awards. But that's my 2 cents as an Oscar historian. That's what I think. So this is a great film, and I'm glad that I have it on Blu-ray so I can watch it whenever I want now. And I hope that you all saw it, and if you saw it and didn't see the things that I saw in it, watch it again, because it's there, and it's just a rich, beautiful film that I very much enjoyed watching, and I am glad to see it's making so many people happy. I don't know, it's a beautiful film.